All right. Let's get it. Y'all better come on.
Let me tell you something that is going to mess with your head. It's the middle of the day. The sun is out. People are going about their business. And a 24-year-old woman named N.I. Kajha Johnson is sitting in her car at a stop sign. Not in a dark alley. Not at midnight. Not in some hidden corner of the city. Just at a regular intersection in East St. Louis, Illinois, June 3rd, 2026. Just after 1 in the afternoon. And somebody pulls up and shoots her dead. Right there, at a stop sign, in broad daylight. N.I. Kajha didn't survive. She was rushed to a nearby hospital, but it was already too late. A 24-year-old woman, a mother, was gone just like that. And the person who did it? Another woman. Someone who allegedly made a decision that day to end N.I. Kajha's life, and then just drove away. This case stopped me in my tracks the moment I came across it, and I knew I had to bring it to you all, because there are so many questions surrounding what happened and why. We are going to get into all of it today. But before we do, if you are new here, welcome to Shadow Crime. Hit that like button, subscribe, and make sure you click that bell icon so you never miss a single episode. We cover cases like this every single week, and trust me, you do not want to sleep on this channel. Now let's get into it. N.I. Kajha, a.k.a. Johnson, was 24 years old. She was from St. Louis, Missouri, living her life, raising her child, doing what young mothers do every single day. By all accounts, she was just a regular young woman, not a public figure, not someone wrapped up in headlines, just a daughter, a mother, a person who had her whole life ahead of her. On the afternoon of June 3rd, 2026, N.I. Kajha was in her vehicle in East St. Louis. She came to a stop at the intersection of Ridge Avenue and North 25th Street, a completely ordinary moment. The kind of thing any of us do dozens of times a day without thinking twice. You stop at a sign, you wait, you move on. That is how it is supposed to go. But on this day, that stop sign became the last place N.I. Kajha Johnson would ever be. Someone shot her while she sat in that car. She was hit, rushed to an area hospital, and pronounced dead. A young mother, 24 years old, killed in the middle of the day at a street corner in East St. Louis. And here is what makes this even more chilling. Investigators believe the person who pulled that trigger was not some random stranger. They believe it was another woman. Someone who, according to everything we know so far, may have had a very personal reason for being there that day. Now I need you to think about something for a second. East St. Louis is not a small, quiet town where nothing ever happens. It is a city that has seen its share of pain and violence over the years. But even by those standards, what happened at that intersection on June 3rd raised eyebrows. Because this was not a stray bullet. This was not a drive-by where the wrong person got caught in the crossfire. This was targeted, deliberate. Someone knew where N.I. Kajha was going to be, and they showed up. Think about that for a moment. In the middle of the day, with people around, with cameras potentially watching. Whoever did this did not care about being seen. They were not trying to hide. They wanted N.I. Kajha Johnson dead, and they made that happen without hesitation. Now, the East St. Louis Police Department, to their credit, did not sit on this case. They recognized immediately that this was not something they could handle alone. So they reached out to the Illinois State Police Division of Criminal Investigation, specifically their Public Safety Enforcement Group. And that decision turned out to be the right one, because what happened next was fast, incredibly fast. Within 48 hours, I am talking less than 2 days, investigators had a name. They had a suspect, and that suspect was a 23-year-old woman named Brion D, Bess from Swansea, Illinois. Now I want you to sit with that for a second, because 48 hours is not a lot of time. When law enforcement moves that quickly, it usually means one of few things. Either there was surveillance footage that clearly captured the shooter, or there were witnesses who came forward and pointed investigators in a specific direction, or, and this is the one that makes the most sense given what we know, the connection between Brion Bess and N.I. Kajha Johnson was already there, already known. These were not strangers to each other. No official confirmation has been given on the exact nature of their relationship, But when a 23-year-old woman drives to a specific intersection in the middle of the day and shoots another specific woman who is sitting in her car at a stop sign, you have to ask yourself, how did she know where Kajha would be? How did she know which car she was in? How did she know to be there at that exact moment? This was not random. This was personal. On June 5th, just 2 days after Kajha was killed, Illinois State Police presented the case to the St. Clair County State's Attorney's Office. Brion D. Bess was charged with first-degree murder, a Class M felony, which is the most serious classification of felony in the state of Illinois. She was taken into custody and is currently being held at the St. Clair County Jail, awaiting her first court appearance. And as of right now, no official motive has been released.
Hey, this is the first step of me talking to my inner child and trying to heal myself and get over a lot of my trauma. I was sheltered as a kid. And when I say sheltered, I was not allowed to have a social life. I was not allowed to have friends. My mama would make me think that friends are the worst thing that could ever exist based off of her experiences that she went through. She projected those insecurities onto me. And now, as an adult, I'm 23 now, I have trouble making friends. I have trouble being in relationships. I'm very codependent in relationships because I was silenced as a kid, and I just feel like my voice was taken away from me, and I would have to go to my parents for validation for everything. And it made it hard for me to trust myself and to trust my own opinions and to trust myself in making decisions for myself. The way I grew up, it's all about finding you a man, having kids, and loving that man regardless. That's what I was taught. I was not taught anything outside of that. I was not taught anything outside of that. And I had friends. I had 2 best friends. Samantha Rubio was one of my best friends. Tanaya Jones was my second best friend. I can't forget about Agena Hunt. That was my dog. Oh my God. Agena was my best friend. Sorry. Agena was my best friend. From preschool. All the way to middle school. And I can honestly say, that was my first real friend. And this was when I was staying with my real mom. When I was living with my real mom, I had more freedom. My mama cared about me, but she'll let me go outside. She'll let me go to my friend's house. She'll let me go around the corner and go play. I used to stay at Agena house, all the time. Shout out to you, Gigi, because, girl, you was my dog for real. That was my first real best friend. And then times fell hard for my mama, and we was taken from her, and I moved in with my godmama. Now, I don't hate my godmama, but I do have feelings of resentment because that's when I began to be sheltered. I couldn't go outside. I couldn't have friends. I couldn't go to my friend's house to play. My friends will try to come around the corner to my house and come and get me so we can go to the park. Could never do that. Like, go to the movies, could never do that. Basketball games, football games, could never do that. I would have to sneak and do these things. And like, when I snuck and did them, I already knew she was gonna beat the fuck out of me when I got home. But I did it anyway. And I got my ass whooped for every single little thing I did. I got my ass whooped. Pants down, panties down, leaned over the bed, got my ass beat. For trying to do, like, for trying to do normal shit. Like, for trying to be a kid. I got only thing that I could do was go to school and come straight home. On Wednesdays, go to Bible study. Sundays, go to church. But then, like, Sunday through Monday, the whole week, I be at home taking care of my siblings, taking care of kids. And it's like, that'll really fuck somebody up. I was forced into the role of taking care of other people my whole life while neglecting myself. But I was made to think that that was okay. And now that I'm older, I'm learning that I was taught everything wrong. And I get criticized when I make mistakes. And, like, people are looking at me like, oh, you childish. You know, you gotta grow up. And people don't understand. That shit is so fucking hard for me. That shit is very hard for me. When you grow up sheltered your whole life, like, when you grow up sheltered your whole life, that shit really fuck you up. So if you got kids, like, I'm not saying let them rip and run the streets and do whatever they want to do, but allow them to be a kid. Allow them to have friends. Allow them to build connections. Allow them to make mistakes. Allow them to experience the world on their own so they can know what the fuck to do when they become an adult. Because as a fucking adult, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, and yes, I be trying to figure this shit out.
So here's where things get really heavy. Because we now have to talk about the part of this story that nobody in law enforcement has officially explained yet. The why. And I think the why is what is going to stick with you long after this episode is over. There's a detail circulating within the community surrounding this case that police have not ruled out jealousy as a possible motive. Let that sink in. Jealousy. A 24-year-old mother, sitting in her car on a Wednesday afternoon, killed because of something that may have come down to jealousy between two women. Now, we have to be clear that this has not been officially confirmed by investigators. But when you look at the facts, the targeted nature of the shooting, the speed of the arrest, the fact that Brion Bess apparently knew exactly where to find Kajha, it paints a very specific picture. And I want you to really think about who Kajha Johnson was beyond this tragedy. She was 24 years old. She had a child depending on her. She woke up that morning, probably got her day started the way any young mother does. Maybe she kissed her child before she left. Maybe she had planned for later that evening. She had no idea that a stop sign in East St. Louis would be the last place she ever sat. That child is now growing up without their mother because of a decision someone else made. That reality is devastating, and it deserves to be said out loud. And then there's Brion Bess, 23 years old, from Swansea, Illinois, also young, also someone with a whole life ahead of her. And now she is sitting in the St. Clair County Jail facing a first-degree murder charge, a Class M felony. In Illinois, a conviction on first-degree murder can carry a sentence of anywhere from 20 years to natural life in prison. 23 years old, and potentially looking at spending the rest of her life behind bars. All of this because of whatever happened between her and N.I. Kajha Johnson. What drove her to that intersection? What was going through her mind when she pulled up next to that car? What was so unresolvable, so consuming, that the only answer she had come up with was to end another woman's life in front of the entire world in the middle of the afternoon? That is what I keep coming back to, because jealousy is something every single person watching this has felt at some point in their life. It is a human emotion, but there's a line between feeling something and acting on it in the most permanent and destructive way imaginable. And Brion Bess allegedly crossed that line on June 3rd, 2026. So I want to ask you directly, what do you think happened between these two women? Do you think jealousy alone is enough to explain something this calculated and this cold? And what about N.I. Kajha's child? What do you think justice looks like in a case like this? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now, because I genuinely want to hear what you all think. If this case moved you, if it made you feel something, hit that like button and make sure you are subscribed to Shadow Crime. Click that bell icon so you get notified the moment we drop new episodes, because we are not done covering this case. As new details come out of that St. Clair County courtroom, we will be right here bringing it to you. N.I. Kajha Johnson deserves to have her story told, and we are going to make sure that happens.